Hello, everyone. This is a video from my critical thinking class. I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about our final week on logical fallacies, to thank you for all of your hard work throughout the class, and to remind you about the course evaluation survey. So let me share the screen and just talk about a few of these things. So as I just said, the course evaluation survey is posted, or the end of course survey. You can find it by going to course content, clicking on course content, and then scrolling down to the bottom. It will be located there. It's just a few questions, but I would really appreciate if we could get 100% turn in on this, as it's important for helping the school, helping the class, etc. We also have our final week this week, studying logical fallacies. Um, we have a discussion on fallacies running from Wednesday the 24th through Sunday the 28th, with first post needing to be in by the end of the day today on Friday. Remember, you need to make a couple replies to your classmates, as always, to earn full credit. This discussion just asks you to watch a couple of videos that contain, or commercials, that contain fallacies, and then think about the way the commercials use fallacies, the ethics behind commercials using fallacies. Essentially, why have we become accepting of fallacies in advertisements when we might not be elsewhere? We also have the logical fallacy assignment, which is due Sunday, the 28th by 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time. This is our final assignment. Please note, final assignments can only be turned in up to 24 hours past the original deadline, because grades are due immediately within 48 hours. So 24 hours is the cutoff point. Um, this final paper fallacy assignment asks you to read one of several different articles and then investigate that article looking for logical fallacies. And then you basically just explain what that logical fallacy is and discuss the fallacy's intentionality. So I want to do a couple things real quick. I want to look at a list and explanation of some logical fallacies to kind of help you just with the idea, so that you know what you're looking for in the essay you choose for the logical fallacies final assignment. And just to get a better understanding of fallacies as a whole. So let me share this document with you. I'll post this on the Blackboard shortly, so or with the video. Basically, fallacies are flawed, logically flawed arguments. They essentially are arguments that may sound good, but something is not quite right in their construction, in the organization of ideas, in the logic of it. They don't necessarily go from point A to point B. They can be used on purpose, or they can be used accidentally. If they're used on purpose, they're pretty much used to try and trick people into accepting a faulty argument, or if they're used on accident, it's simply just that the author or speaker doesn't recognize their own fallacy, right? So there are different types of fallacies, and I think this might be helpful for your project if you get a sense of what you're looking for as you're reading the essays. So the first type of fallacy I want to talk about, we'll talk about 8 real quick. Ad hominem is just Latin for to the man. It means that a speaker or writer is attacking another speaker or writer instead of that person's ideas. You'll see this in politics all the time, where people seem to go against each other but don't really say anything about the ideas. So that is an ad hominem fallacy. Ad populum is Latin for to the man, or I'm sorry, to the people. This is just the idea that if everybody's doing it, it must be right. 99% of the people could believe something is true. That alone doesn't make it true. Think about all the things that we once thought were true as a race or as a species, or uh, about the world, and no longer do, right? Appeal to false authority is the type of fallacy in which someone is positioned as an expert who really isn't. Think about the famous basketball players selling shoes. They are experts at basketball. They are not foot doctors, right? Circular reasoning is the type of fallacy in which the premise is proven by the conclusion, but the conclusion is proven by the premise. They kind of depend on each other. For example, I'm an A student, you can't give me a C, but you're only an A student if I haven't yet given you a C, right? They kind of go around in a circle. Premise leads to conclusion, leads to premise, leads to conclusion, instead of premise, premise, conclusion. False dilemma is the next one. This is when we take like a complex situation and reduce it down to an either or scenario. We either go to war or we look like cowards. Sort of the rhetoric surrounding pretty much every military conflict we've ever been involved in. We either go to war or we look like cowards, and think about geopolitical affairs and all of the other possibilities that could occur. But it's easy for our brains to shrink things down to two choices. We can handle two choices. The giant web of choices is what's terrifying, right? Faulty analogy is when you or when the person compares two things that can't really be compared. I know how to drive a car. I could definitely fly a helicopter. Probably not, right? You'll see this a lot. We like analogies, and people like to make analogies to sound good, but their analogies are usually pretty bad. Hasty generalization. This is when a conclusion is reached because of inadequate evidence. It would be like if you took a really small sample size and then applied the findings from that small sample size to a very large audience. It's usually going to be a hasty generalization. So the example here is, I know one guy who smoked cigarettes his whole life and never got cancer, therefore smoking doesn't cause cancer. And then the last one, in my opinion, the best logical fallacy is post hoc ergo propter hoc. It's Latin for after which, therefore because of which. It's just a flawed cause and effect. Like, because I spilled coffee on myself at breakfast, I failed my math exam. Right? Cause, I spilled coffee. Effect, I failed my math exam, except these things aren't related. I like this one a lot because I think as humans, our minds are constantly attempting to come to the reasons why things happen, right? The explanation for things. And so sometimes we come up with some pretty crazy ones that don't really work, right? Post hoc ergo propter hoc. Okay, so one last thing. Let's take a look at the assignment prompt. Let me get it loaded up real quick. Just to make sure that everybody's on the same page with the assignment prompt going into the weekend, so that hopefully you can just knock this out and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Let me share this. Okay, here's the prompt. So as I said, you need to choose one of these three articles, and then you read over the article. And what you're trying to do is write about a one-page paper, I would say 3 to 5 paragraphs, in which you are introducing which article you're discussing, then finding out what type, or identifying and labeling what fallacies you think occur in the article. Explain kind of what, like, label them, say this is a post hoc ergo propter hoc, whatever. Explain how it works, like how it's working in the article. And then this last part is really important. Make sure you explain the intentionality of the fallacy. So think of it in those 3 sections. Introduce the article, introduce the fallacy or fallacies within the article, explain what they are, how they work, and then kind of your conclusion, or your third part being, do you think these were done intentionally? Is this a case of the author or writer or speaker trying to sneak one over, or is this just flawed bad logic that they don't even recognize or realize that they made an error? There are 35 total points, 10 points for the summary of the fallacy and the explanation of your labels. You've clearly labeled it and explained how it works. And then 20 points for explaining why the fallacy was committed. This last part, did you discuss the intentionality of it? If it was used intentionally, why? And then 5 points for writing level, grammar, mechanics, use academic voice, third person point of view, etc. Okay, again, that's due Sunday the 28th. If you have questions about the assignment, please email me and let me know. I will post this video along with that list of logical fallacies to the Blackboard in just a moment. That's it. I hope you guys have a good weekend.